So the circuit level will look at the rule-based. It's going to look at the same information as a packet filtering, which is just header information. And so when a lot of people say, well, what's the difference? Well, that it's actually a proxy, that it's making, it's breaking that connection, it's making a copy of the original packet, and then it's changing the IP header address and sending it on, provides more security. Now, the application layer proxy firewall works different in that it actually digs down into the packet. It gets into the actual, all the headers up to the application layer. And so you have to have one proxy per protocol that you're allowing to come into your environment. So you have to have one proxy for HTTP, one for FTP, one for SMTP. And it doesn't mean you have to have one firewall per protocol. The actual firewall has the individual proxies. And the reason that you have to have individual proxies for the different protocols is because this proxy has to understand the actual syntax and commands at the application layer. So, for example, with HTTP, there's a whole commands that will be sent. You know, get, put, those are the ones that people are usually used to. But a HTTP proxy won't understand the command set for SMTP. That's a whole different protocol, a whole different command set. So the application layer proxy firewall has these different proxies for the type of protocols or services that you're allowing to come in and out of your environment. Now, if your application layer proxy does not have a proxy specifically for some type of service or protocol that you're using, you want to use, you have two choices. You ever build your own proxy, which is really complex because that means you have to understand the full structure, the whole command structure of that protocol and be able to determine what's right and wrong and malicious. Or what people usually do is use what's called a general proxy, which means it's really a circuit level proxy. So any type of packets that are coming through that you don't have an application layer proxy will go through a general proxy and just look at the header information. Or some companies just punch a hole in their firewall, which means it's wide open, going back and forth. So the application layer, because it digs more into the actual packet, it takes more processing because it does it for every single packet. And this is why companies haven't been using them as much because of the performance hit. But in the market, that is getting, the performance getting better and better, so they're coming back around and used because the level, they provide much more security than the other types of firewalls we've talked about up to now. So as I said, the application firewall is going to actually have its own hardened stack. So the packet will go through that hard stack and communicate with a specific proxy that it needs to communicate to, either FTP, HTTP, SMTP. And based on the rules of that, what that proxy indicates is allowed, if it is allowed, if the proxy is configured with a policy that allows whatever that packet is, then of course it goes back down the hardened stack and it goes to the host. So the application layer proxy has more advantages over packet filtering or a circuit level because of it going deeper into the packet. Basically, as a larger amount of data that it's using to make its access decision, usually has more logging capabilities compared to the other two. You can set up user authentication and so they're not just a level 3 device. It's looking at just the basic network header information. It's going up through all of the headers and making decisions on all of that information. So as I said, great, it provides all the security we need. It's it looks, more granular, it looks at more specific things. But anytime you have more granular security, what does that mean? That means you have more processing. So I talked about the actual performance hit, but another thing is that you can support specific protocols, you could support specific applications where the other ones don't connect directly to the applications or control the application because they're not at that layer. So you have tighter control of the application protocols, HTTP, FTP, SMTP, all of those protocols. You can get much more specific in what's allowed and not allowed versus that something is just looking at the lower headers like the filtering firewall or a circuit.